Welcome to Florida's #1 hockey podcast, the Cats and Bolts. 3, 2, 1.
Hey. Tres, dos, uno. Welcome, everybody, and Feliz Navidad. How do you like us so far? Welcome to Cats and Bolts, Florida's favorite hockey show. And as Ben Castro, our lovely and talented producer, pointed out, it's the #1 show as well. Rod Peterson, Sarina Taylor, broadcasting live to you from Podcast Junkie Studios in downtown Boca Raton. It's Season 2, Episode 15, and Ben, write it down. It's the outdoor game episode. Ta-da! That's the news. And just so you all know what's going to keep you hooked in here for about 30 to 40 minutes once Ben starts the clock, we're going to be talking about the outdoor game. We're going to be talking about the Four Nations face-off rosters, because I know the Panthers and the Lightning lead the NHL in teams on these rosters for the tournament coming up in February. NHL Board of Governors meetings, talking about, the outdoor game, but also Atlanta expansion. It's come up again. Coach of the Year candidates, coaching firings, the dumpster fire that's the New York Rangers, Nashville, also a dumpster fire, and whatever Sarina would like to talk about if we still have time. But we're going to open this up by talking about the biggest news. What do you have to get off your chest? Anything so far?
Just the fact that I get to talk if we have time. It's fine. Whatever I want to talk about if we have time.
What would you like to talk about besides all these burning questions?
We have a lot of stuff to get through, so let's start.
Okay, well, I said, coming in hot on this one, Elliot Friedman. He is Sportsnet's #1 NHL insider. He's covering the NHL Board of Governors meetings from here in Florida this weekend. It came out on Tuesday. Well, two things. #1, the salary cap's going to go up by 5%. He said, doesn't affect us. Certainly does the players, so bravo to them. But then here's the quote. The Florida Panthers are closing in on hosting an outdoor game as early as next season at Lone Depot Park. I didn't think it was ever going to happen. We've talked about this a little bit on this show, a lot off the air with the Bill Lindsays and our Panthers fans friends, whether this was ever going to happen, and it's happening. I'm so excited. Panthers fans are high-fiving, celebrating. They're saying, I've waited my whole life for this, and I believe that they have. I didn't think it was going to happen. You've got thoughts, of course. What are yours?
My thoughts have always been that I do not like the gimmicky crap in the NHL. If Panthers fans have been waiting their whole life for an outdoor hockey game in Florida, that's where we're different. That is where we're different. We are not the same. I've said that a million times. But it's gimmicky crap that the NHL is doing. When I was in California, they had the outdoor game in California, and they tried to do it at Lake Tahoe. And of course, that was going to be a catastrophe, which it was. And I just think that the league needs to stop with the crap. It's you got to be kidding me. An outdoor game in Florida. Literally, what is the point? What's the point? How is it going to benefit?
We need to delve into this a little further. And it's the #1. It's the outdoor episode. Did I tell you that, Ben? It's the outdoor game episode. What's only Edmonton can have an outdoor game? Like, I don't understand. I'm excited about it. I want to be there. I assume you want to be there. Do you not want to be there at this game at Lone Depot Park?
I specifically avoided going to that circus in Los Angeles.
What's the difference between it being in LA, Edmonton, Miami, Toronto, Cal? What's the difference? I don't get it. Listen, I've said this a million times on this show. The outdoor games have gotten completely out of control. Completely out of control. There's how many games? I'm not saying, and for the record, even though the snotty attitude that I just got from Rod about what only Edmonton can have, I've never said that. But we were like, the difference between the Winter Classic and the outdoor this and the New Year's this. I'm like, I don't even know what the hell's going on anymore. There are too many. There's too many. They had 2 in Edmonton 20 years apart. That's plenty. Again, it's the gimmicky bullshit that I don't like. And the league is trying to push. How does it benefit? Literally. Well, it's, and a couple things. It's marketing, I mean, you don't think it helped to have the All-Star game here. And then the Panthers earned their way into the Stanley Cup final in back-to-back years. The more people going to hockey games here, it's going to be a novelty. There will be people going to Lone Depot Park that have never been to a hockey game before. So there's that. And by the way, when I said that we talked about this with Bill Lindsay, I can't remember if this was on the air or not, but we talked about what if it were to happen in Florida, where would it be? And Bill was like, well, I think it's just a little colder in Tampa than here in South Florida, right? And I looked up the stats. It's like 1 degree different. I never thought this would ever happen, by the way. So I'm all for marketing. I went to my first NBA game in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan in 1993 between Minnesota and Atlanta, and I fell in love with the NBA. Not to the degree that I'm sitting there buying all the gear, but I watch because of a neutral site marketing gimmick like this.
But again,
that's why they're doing it.
You just brought up the All-Star game. The All-Star game was admittedly here a disaster. It was embarrassing. It was embarrassing. Come on.
I didn't enjoy it. And we went and we bought tickets. And they changed the format ever since. So it is what it is. There was things around the All-Star game that I liked, though, like the alumni game that I went to. Why are you looking at me like that?
I'm just listening.
It's marketing. It's what is your point? Why do you not like this?
I literally said it 3 times
That's too
already.
many games is what you're saying.
I hate the gimmicky bullshit.
Okay, you can stay home. I'll go to the game. Ben, do you want to come with me? You've wanted to go to a game, so...
I'd love to go.
Okay.
Ben's like, I don't know how to answer this.
She will be sitting... he will be sitting. If you keep your hair that long, Ben, I'll be saying she. Kidding. Only sort of. But, hey, we're excited about it. She's not. Let's move on to the Four Nations face-off rosters, if I have that correct.
Do I look excited about it?
Okay, so she's not. Surprised? Not this guy, and probably not you. Okay, Four Nations face-off rosters were announced last Wednesday, and this is interesting, too. I thought I saw somewhere that the Panthers had 8 and the Lightning had 7 players. That's not actually correct. The Tampa Bay Lightning from Team Canada have Anthony Cirelli, Braden Point, Brandon Hagel. From Team Sweden's named Victor Hedman, and from Team USA, Jake Gensel. Florida Panthers had 7 players, the most in the NHL announced. Sam Bennett for Team Canada, Sam Reinhart for Team Canada, Matthew Tkachuk, Team USA, Team Finland, Alexander Barkov, Anton Lundell, Eetu Luostarinen, and from Sweden, Gustav Forsling. So these 2 teams here in Florida put the most players on. The Oilers only had 1 in Connor McDavid. From what I understand, they were upset up there about that. Some were. I don't know if you were or not. The rosters were announced.
I don't know who the hell was upset.
Yeah.
I mean, well, I think the thing, before we even get into the rosters, I even saw it again today, that Mark Scheifele got snubbed by Team Canada. Guys, he did not get snubbed. Nobody got snubbed. If Canada had to put out 3 teams, they would all be good. Canada has a lot of depth. So Scheifele never got snubbed. So we're going to nip that. Because I know people here probably have no fucking clue what I'm even talking about because they don't watch Mark Scheifele. They don't care. But people are upset up there that Mark Scheifele got snubbed. He didn't get snubbed. Bringing me to my point about the rosters. Sam Bennett is not somebody I would have had on my radar to be on Canada's team. What that shows me is that they're trying to ice a team that's going to be strong up front in their 3rd and 4th lines as far as the 3rd line center for Canada, Sidney Crosby. Canada arguably has the top 3 players in the entire world. And in Cale Makar on defense, Nate McKinnon, obviously Connor McDavid. There are not 3 better players in the world than those hockey players. And then you got Sidney Crosby. So I think they're getting a guy like Sam Bennett so that a Marchand can put the puck in the net as opposed to being a Marchand.
Well, let me back up a second. You might have been gone from Canada for too long. The term snub is simply, if you weren't invited, they call it a snub. You remember that from the World Junior camps. If you weren't invited, they call it a snub. Was Mark Scheifele upset? Probably. What did he have? A hat trick and an assist, I think, in the 8-1 win over Boston on Tuesday night. And he was specifically asked after the game by Winnipeg media, were you trying to show up the Bruins GM, Don Sweeney, because he's Canada's GM? So Scheifele didn't take the bait. But you know yourself, if you're not invited to your home country's international tournament, they call it a snub.
It's funny. I never heard that referred to when Zach Hyman never made the team. He didn't get snubbed because he didn't make the team. A lot of Canadian players that didn't make the team that are really good hockey players.
Connor Bedard wasn't invited. Macklin Celebrini wasn't. I'm just saying they're making it a big deal in Winnipeg.
No, I agree.
It's a big deal up there. So the analysts that I have had on my daily show, the Rod Peterson Show, said these teams are going out to win this thing based on their rosters. Therefore, No number one pick, Connor Bedard, from 2 years ago on Team Canada. No number one pick from last year, Macklin Celebrini, the reigning Rookie of the Year, Rookie of the Month in the NHL from San Jose. What these rosters say is they want to win, which goes further to John Cooper, the Lightning coach, is the coach of Team Canada. So I don't think you'd have probably seen a Brandon Hagel or maybe even an Anthony Cirelli if John Cooper's not the coach.
Well, I completely agree with that. And do I feel like Scheifele's a better player than Cirelli? Absolutely he is. However, they're putting together a team. We watch Canada do it every year at the World Juniors. They're icing a team. You're not icing individual players. You're putting together a team, which is why these guys made the team and are on the team. You know, I think that's the one thing that John Cooper does bring is he knows these players that well. You know, if a Paul Maurice is coaching the team, he's going to be able to do the same thing because he's got guys on the team,
including a Sam Bennett. So John Cooper's coached against Sam Bennett the last 3 years in the playoffs and obviously said, I want this guy on our team.
Sam Bennett is going to get under everyone's skin. His purpose is going to be to draw penalties. He's going to be the Jordan Tutu of that tournament.
You know, it's amazing, actually. That just dawned on me. Brad Marchand of Boston is on Team Canada as well. Remember round 2 of the playoffs last year? Sam Bennett giving Marchand the shot away from the camera, away from the refs, knocking him out of the series, and now they're teammates. This stuff's been going on for years, but I often wonder what that first conversation's like, if there even is a conversation in the dressing room over this.
I think obviously you're right, it's happened over the years, but I think that one thing that we've seen is any time a Canadian gets the opportunity to put that jersey on, everything goes aside. Everything. It's doable, probably for every country, you know, but we've seen it happen a little bit more in Canada.
There are hockey analysts and pundits, whether you believe this or not, that say this U.S. team is the deepest and I think most talented, is what Stephen Ellis said on my show from the Daily Faceoff, that has ever been put together. I'm not sure I agree, but I wonder who you think is the best team out of these 4. Again, I should back up. Sweden, Finland, Canada, USA are playing in a tournament in February, games to be played in Montreal and Boston. For those that don't know.
Well, it's going to depend. Canada has the most talented players, 100%. That doesn't necessarily mean anything, though. I think the U.S. has pretty strong defense, and they've got arguably the best goaltending because they have 2 pretty strong goaltenders. Does that mean anything? No, because only one can play. But the U.S. is strong with their defensemen and with their goaltending. They don't have as much talent up front as Canada does. Do I think that this is the deepest U.S. team? I mean, I don't know. We were talking about it. We're like, oh, the guys like Chris Chelios and Jeremy Roenick and Mike Modano's, like when they all played on that team.
And Mike Richter.
Yeah, I mean, rude, dude. Mike Richter. Wow. That's a whole nother conversation for another time. I mean, I can't think of a better American goalie than Mike Richter. Say what you want about Hellebuck, but Mike Richter was so consistent.
And John Van Beesbroek right up there, somebody that they love here in South Florida still. So, but I don't know. We're going to find out.
Yeah, it's going to be who plays the best. It's like that in every single tournament that's played. It depends on who plays the best. On paper, Canada has a better team than the U.S., but that's not to say that I don't think that the U.S. doesn't have a good team.
What's fun about this is I know a lot of people that are watching this show will watch Spit and Chicklets or listen to it. Sarina and I do not. Have you ever watched or listened to a minute of that show?
No, never.
I watched one back in 2019 shortly after it started, and I said I just can't for 2 reasons. Number one, I find it offensive. I don't really talk that way, and I can't believe that it's even endorsed by the National Hockey League. And number 2, I can go into any dressing room in North America and get this. It's like turning a recorder on, which is fine. A lot of people don't get that. But I can get this anywhere. I don't find it that entertaining. But I do see the clips, and Paul Bissonnette's been on my show. I wouldn't call him a friend, but I know him. I got his number. He defends Canada. Ryan Whitney from Boston defends USA. They've been fighting for years over who's got the better country in hockey. We're going to find out in February. That's the point. Everybody can shut up. I don't know how you could argue Connor McDavid, Nathan McKinnon, Sidney Crosby. Nobody's better than that.
No.
How could anybody
no.
argue?
Well, no, I don't think anybody is, to be fair. Here's the thing, though. I don't really feel like there are a lot of Americans who are really amped up about this tournament. Canadians get amped up about every single freaking hockey tournament there is, but I don't feel like Americans are really pouring their heart and soul into it. A lot of them don't even know it's happening because people here are not necessarily hockey fans. They might be Panthers fans, but they could care less about anything else, which is fine. Canada's to one degree and essentially the U.S. is to the other, right? So we know it's just constant up there. But again, yeah, Canada has the better team. Anybody who thinks the U.S. has a better team is probably American, which is fine. But it's just, to me, it's a no-brainer. I mean, you can't, the top three players that I named already, McCarr, McKinnon, and McJesus, they're the three best players in the NHL in the last 25, 30 years. I mean, let's be honest.
Right, but it's going to be more than three players that win it. And
Sure.
the thing is, there will be USA hockey fans watching this right now disagreeing with her and probably upset. And the point is, that's fine because they're going to settle on the ice. Problem is, there are fights breaking out in the streets in Canada over who's got the better team and who's... And I'm like, guys, calm down. It's just conjecture, it's just speculation, it's just talk. That's how upset they are. Now, the interesting thing about all this is, if Russia put in a team, which they weren't invited, and people are asking me, why isn't Russia in this? I'm like, I don't know. Other than they're at war with Ukraine, that might be the reason, and they're barred from all international events. But this is an NHL event, not an international event.
Well, right.
But I think Russia would walk over everybody.
Again,
I really do believe that.
Again, Russia's been canceled. We've discovered
Is that why they're not in this,
Russia's canceled for everything. No,
well, what does it say
nobody
for Czechs and Slovakia and all the others that aren't in this? Norway, Finland.
Or
Finland's
again,
in, but you know what I mean.
To try to understand why the NHL does what they do, I have absolutely no idea. I think the Finns and the Swedes, anytime I get to watch the Finns and the Swedes play each other is Christmas. During the World Juniors, I always make sure I look at when the Finns and the Swedes are playing and I watch that game. It's always the best game of the tournament. It's just for countries that are so small and they ice such talented. I mean, the Finns and the Swedes just play a different style of hockey and it's beautiful to watch because I don't have any skin in the game, depending on if it's going to affect who Canada plays. But maybe that's why they chose them. I don't know. Maybe they just wanted to keep it short and sweet and were like, who are the best, strongest foreign nations right now? I don't know.
And the difference here is to pick a winner, this is not a 7-game series. I haven't really looked at the format of the tournament. I'm assuming a 2-week tournament, I assume. Maybe not even that long. I don't know. But who wins in a tournament versus who wins a best of 7? They're two different things. You can't just look and go, they got the goaltending, they got the special teams, they got the... You can't, right? Where we would do in a playoff series, and that's fun.
That's why hockey has a 7-game series.
Yeah.
You know, I bet if football had their choice, they would have a series, but they obviously can't.
Can't, yeah. Well, we'll find out in February. I think it's awesome. Okay, moving on. Here's another one that should be very interesting. NHL Board of Governors meetings in Florida this week. They talked about the outdoor game here. On Tuesday, the prospective ownership group from Atlanta made their pitch to the Board of Governors here in Florida over why they should get a team, a 33rd team. I'm in favor of Atlanta getting it. 2 weeks ago, though, her and I were in Atlanta walking around downtown with our Tim Hortons coffees, of which they have 3 Tim Hortons in Atlanta, and Sarina just randomly threw out, this isn't a hockey town. And I'm like, who cares? Neither was Dallas or Vegas or LA back in the day, Tampa Bay. So we are at opposite ends of that spectrum. I want Atlanta to get a team. Will it work? I don't know, but I want them to get a team. If you're a governor on the board in the NHL, what are you voting? Yes or no on this?
I'm not. So my opinion is different than if I was on the Board of Governors. But is it going to benefit the league? The league is just getting too big. Like we already talked about this a million times. Half the teams don't even make the playoffs, which, whatever. But the reason I said this isn't a hockey town. We drove by Georgia Tech football stadium. We drove by Mercedes-Benz Stadium. We're in the friggin' South. It is football, football, football. And they have the Braves. If I had to guess, I'd be like, this is a football town. This is not a hockey town. And there's a reason it didn't work the first time. Like, it's a different feel. You know, first of all, you go to Vegas. Vegas is just not transient, but there's a lot of people that visit there. It's got a different vibe.
Touristy.
Yeah, it's got a different vibe. LA survives because it has 2 million Canadians live in Los Angeles. South Florida has a shit ton of Canadians. There's a reason that hockey can survive in these places. But Atlanta, it's just, I don't really feel like it is. And like I said, I feel like it's just growing the league way too big, because if you put 33, guess what's next? You have to put 34. You can't leave it lopsided.
You wouldn't think, but again, you're the one saying, why does the NHL do what they do? And in this case, you're right. They may go to 33 teams and stop there. I don't think that they will. I mean, at a recent Panthers game, one of the guys in the press box who's been in the league a long time said it's a done deal. They're going to Atlanta. And I'm like, there are no done deals until it's signed, sealed, and there's a news conference. I don't believe it's a done deal.
I mean,
How could it be? How could it be if they're making the presentation right now? So I'm not going to say she's wrong. I'd like to at least give it a try. I mean, Bill Lindsay sat in that chair. We talked about it with Billy. And he goes, the traffic downtown's terrible. Correct. He's lived there. He played for the Thrashers. So he's not against it. I'm not sure he's necessarily for it. And I'll tell you what, if I was the marketer for the Atlanta whatevers, it would be tough going up against the Georgia Bulldogs and the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets and the Atlanta Braves and the Falcons. It would be tough. But if not there, where would you go? Because they're expanding somewhere.
Nowhere. Let's just fucking
No, but
chill.
they are.
But can we just chill for a second? Why does everything have to grow, grow? Sure, but again, it's the marketing, it's the this, it's the that. The talent in the league has been diluted. It's going to get diluted even further. There are guys playing in the National Hockey League that are not good hockey players. There's sure, like, it's bringing in money and it's a business. And I do stand by the fact that it's a business, but can we just relax for a fucking second? Keep adding teams every year. At some point, if you grow too fast, you can't keep up. Imagine, we film in Podcast Junkies. If Podcast Junkies opened in every city in Florida by the end of this month, they would never be able to keep up. You can't constantly be growing. You gotta build your foundation and let it fucking settle for a second.
Well, that is all true. But there's a little thing called corporate greed. And when they come off a $6.2 billion revenue year, this is why. Because of expansion. And I had a guy with exactly what you said right into my daytime talk show today. And he's from Ottawa. And he goes, Rod, don't you think the talent's getting too diluted? And I said, yeah, but it's been diluted for 30 years. I had to decide about 10 years ago if I'm going to keep watching, because there's no hitting. There's next to no fighting. The talent isn't what it was from what we grew up on. And I made a decision. I'm going to keep watching. Right? And I think you will too. It's diluted, but it's not going back. And I think the owners think people won't notice.
Because they don't have a fucking clue. The majority of the people that watch hockey in the United States right now have no idea what hockey was like 20 years ago. They don't know. So they don't care. They don't even think about the things we think about. But the thing is this, again, the talent's diluted, but you can't just grow. Any company that grows too rapidly ends up shooting themselves in the foot. They tried it in Atlanta already. Didn't work. They had to move them. They tried, look at the shit show in Arizona right now, or whatever the hell they're called even. They got rid of Winnipeg. They brought Winnipeg back. They got, it's been a constant up and down. And it's like, is it really good for the league? Let's think about the league 15, 20 years from now. Is it really going to benefit the league? I don't think so. What was wrong with it before? Nothing. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, I used to look at it her way. Now I just try to look at it as a fan. And the other thing is, I mean, MLS seems to have 8 million teams. And they're making all this money, but I don't even follow that at all. So looks like Atlanta's getting a team. Put her down as a no, put me down as a yes. That's the summary on that. Interesting. Apparently they were talking on TSN this week, Canada's ESPN, about Tuesday's battle up in New Jersey. Sheldon Keefe, the head coach of the Devils, versus Craig Berube, the head coach of the Leafs. I'm laughing because they were like, this is 2 candidates for coach of the year. I'm like, it's not even Christmas yet. I can't believe they're talking about it. But then I'm like, wait a minute, it's Toronto, not reality. So just for fun, if they had a vote for the first half coach of the year, who do you think it would be?
Oh.
You should see your eyes. You're like literally not even on your radar. And why would it be?
Yeah, I literally would have to sit and think about coach of the year. Ooh, I don't know. What's his nuts in Calgary? I'll tell
Ryan
you what,
Huska.
he must be doing something good there, which, by the way, I didn't say that because he's a fantastic human being.
Longtime friend of mine. Thank
Great,
you for
great guy.
saving our ass.
I just couldn't think of his name. That's why I meant, what's his name? He's got to be doing something right, because Calgary, you want to talk about no talent or diluted talent. Calgary's, but they seem to kind of be hanging in there. But do I think coach of the year? No, because Calgary's not going to do anything this year. I don't know.
They're not even in a playoff
But
spot, but it's funny you say that.
I'll tell you one thing right now. It ain't going to be. Sheldon Keefe will never win coach of the year in the NHL. He doesn't have it. He doesn't have it. You can change the color of his jacket. He's still the same guy. Not that I dislike him as a coach, but there was a huge disconnect in Toronto, and I think that they left him there for too long. And I don't know. I really don't think that Sheldon Keefe is the best coach.
I did not tell her I was going to bring this up. And again, it's the dumbest conversation. And these are the insiders of the TSN panel, just like this, talking about it. It makes no sense. But the winner, I think, would be Winnipeg's Scott Arniel. He's set a lot of records this year. Best start ever by a first-year coach with a new team. Shoot, the team had the best start in NHL history, winning 16 of their first 17 games. But in Calgary, where we've spent a lot of time the last 2 years, I went to college there, that team still doesn't have one. They have one player on their roster on pace to have a 50 points. 5-0. Rasmussen Anderson, the defenseman.
Yeah.
And they were off to their best start in franchise history. They're not in a playoff spot today, but they're in year one of a rebuild and with a rookie goalie. They have no business doing what they're doing. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's why she say, what's his nuts? Ryan Huska. Okay.
I tell you, it ain't going to be Andrew Burnett.
Thanks. Whoa, are you reading my diary?
No.
Point 7.
My diary.
We were just
Dear diary.
We were just
I love Atlanta.
Dear Abby.
Signed Roddy.
Yeah. We were just in Nashville as well, where the Predators have lost 8 consecutive games. Also, not a hockey town, but they've got 7 wins on the year, and they are by far the biggest disappointment in the NHL this season. It ain't even close for anybody else. What? There isn't. What?
Who was the person that sat here and said, you never know, just everybody calm down, because let's just see what's going to happen?
Did you say that? I don't remember that. I honestly don't remember that.
They're stacked, but you never know. Everybody's expecting them to win. You never know what's going to happen. But being in Nashville, I was at an event there with some Canadians, and we had like an Airbnb kind of thing, just not that far. It was downtown, so it was fairly close to the rink. And the 2 guys I was talking to live in Calgary, and they obviously grew up playing hockey and whatever. And I said, if you guys didn't know there was a NHL team 2 blocks away, would you even know? And their minds were blown by the fact that it's such a different environment in the U.S. They're like, why? We would never have any idea. You don't see anybody wearing Predators gear. Unless you walked into the rink, you wouldn't even see the rink. I still maintain it's not a hockey town. People go to the games, but we didn't even know there was a team there, or we wouldn't have known.
Mm-hmm.
Should I keep going, or I'm not really sure what to do right now?
Well, it's funny because Panther muscle fan, you know, the gentleman that wears the padded suit?
Yeah,
Rob.
And the hair and the wig.
Yeah. He's like, we went to that tailgate party a couple weeks ago. They had the toy drive, and we were mildly arguing about something. And he was like, you guys are so on brand. You're even arguing right now. I'm like, we don't argue, except for when it comes to this. It's the wildest thing. Like literally never. This whole business of being a hockey town, who gives a shit? They play hockey there, period.
You're the one that brought it up. You're the one that said if something was a hockey town. So I was just communicating on what we were talking about earlier.
I actually asked about Nashville and their 8 losses in a row, and you just said that nobody cares about hockey in Nashville. My point is, who cares? They have a team, and I think it's fine. You're not going to have 32 hockey towns in the National Hockey League.
So you're the guy that is promoting the marketing. Oh, I'm all about the marketing. Who gives a shit if they don't care if there's hockey? I'm getting confusing.
What do you mean?
Well, it's one or the other. Either you think that marketing is a good thing or you don't care.
It's about growing a brand. Do you ever think South Florida will be a hockey market?
No.
No, it's never going to be. Okay? Doesn't mean you can't still try and grow and sell tickets and sell merchandise and make money and win. It's never going to be. Some guy wrote into my show today and said, Atlanta's more of a baseball town. So is New York. If not that, then it's a football town. Should we not play hockey here? That's my point. These places are never going to be hockey towns, so why does it matter? Anyways.
Right, so why are we expanding the league? If it's not going to bring in money and benefit the league, why are we expanding it?
Because the owners are making more money. Okay, I'm about done. The New York Rangers is my last point, unless you have something that you would like to talk about. I'm stunned by this. They traded their captain, Jacob Trouba, on Friday, and I don't know how much you're paying attention, how much your coverage. We have not talked about this. She follows different things that I do sometimes. They seem like the biggest grease fire, the New York Rangers. They're firing their coaches fairly regularly, their team president not that long ago, John Davidson, who's in Columbus now. I was, number one, shocked to learn that they won the President's Trophy last year. They've been to the Eastern Conference Final 2 of the last 3 years. Or is it just that Jacob Trouba doesn't like them? Is there more to it?
The only thing I can surmise is that something had to have happened that we didn't hear about or that nobody heard about, because the Trouba trade just kind of happened. And why Anaheim? Why would you... Jacob Trouba, in my opinion, if I was the general manager and I had to trade a guy like Jacob Trouba, I would be getting everything under the sun for that guy. He was your captain. I don't know, they didn't replace him is what I'm saying. And they sent him to a team that is not in Stanley Cup contention. So he seemed to be happy to get out of there. I don't know. We saw it happen in Edmonton with Chris Pronger. There was stuff that came out after, the shit that's going on with JT Miller. I don't even know what's happening with these guys. It's not my business. I don't care. But I'm just saying that for the Rangers, the Rangers don't make stupid mistakes. For them to trade away a guy like Jacob Trouba with not a lot of fanfare, didn't get a lot in return, there was something that we're probably not hearing about.
They are out of a playoff spot as we sit here today. Do you think they'll make it?
Yes.
Why?
They have the talent. They have the talent. You can only be bad or like a grease fire for so long. I don't know what's going on there. I said it last year, though. I said it a million times. There's something about that team that there's a disconnect. And it's apparent. Is it coaching? Is it going to come down to coaching now? Last year it was like, ooh, he's a savior. This year, what's happening, right? But kind of going back to my comment about Andrew Brunette, great coach. But again, you have a lot of superstars. And this is what I said about Nashville. You put too many superstars in one place without forming a team, which goes back to what the Four Nations Cup people are doing. It's different. You have a guy like Andrew Brunette. How's he going to tell all those guys how to play the game?
Yeah, it's not about, is what she's saying, having the most talented roster. It's about having the best team. And all I can say is, you Panthers fans, you Lightning fans should be very happy with the franchises you have.
Oh, God. Absolutely. Listen, if I was a fan of either team, like wholeheartedly, I would absolutely be content and happy with everything that's going on from the scouting department. You guys here don't understand like what the scouts look at in junior hockey, and you don't get to see all of the players playing junior and go, God, this guy's coming up to play on my team. But you should be happy with everything that's going on behind the scenes because there are no issues. There's no drama in both the Lightning and the Panthers. There's none of that stuff. Nobody's making any waves. Nobody's doing anything stupid. You have captains that are cool as a cucumber. You have great goaltenders. There's no train wreck on the horizon. I would be super stoked.
Good times to be Florida hockey fans. That's it. Merry ho-ho. We'll be back here next week, hopefully not having torn each other apart. Thank you, Benny. We'll see you next time on Cats and Bolts.
Did you just call me a hoe?